وصحبه وسلم عبده ورسوله وقليله وصفيه صلوات الله والسلام عليه أرسله الله تعالى بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على دين كله ولو كره المشركون. وبعد عباد الله إني أوصيكم ونفسي المذنب بتقوى الله كما قال الله تبارك وتعالى يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. I praise Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. I ask Allah to raise the rank and the status and the honor and the prestige of our leader and our guide, Sayyiduna Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. May Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala raise his rank and cause us to be assembled under his banner on the day of judgment. We ask Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala to accept our fasting during the month of Ramadan. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our standing during the month of Ramadan. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us his mercy, his forgiveness, and his emancipation from the hellfire. May Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to continue to do the good deeds that we did all during Ramadan, to continue them throughout the year. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us like some of the righteous scholars from Asada al-Ba'alawi, who they used to look at the 6 months after Ramadan. They would have energy from Ramadan to keep doing the ibadah for 6 months. And then they would look for the next 6 months to Ramadan coming again. So that the whole year for them was in anticipation of the month of Ramadan. That Ramadan was their life, inwardly and outwardly. Outwardly by refraining from the prohibitions, performing the obligations, and inwardly by adorning themselves with praiseworthy characteristics and removing themselves from blameworthy characteristics. I wanted in this brief speech, because this is a day of celebration. This is a day that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah, would accept from us our acts of worship. So it's a day of happiness. It's a day of celebration and rejoicing in the favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. After the favor, the ni'mah of Islam, the favor that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made you among the believing righteous servants. And we should say alhamdulillah for that. And I want to mention one hadith which has several narrations that we can reflect on for the day. And inshallah, these few hadith would carry us throughout the year. And it is important, as some of our teachers used to say to us, be one who takes a little and retains a lot, not one who takes a lot and retains little. So in a little is a great benefit. And this was the habit of the companions of the Prophet salawatullahi wassalamu alayhi, radiyallahu ta'ala anhum ajma'in, that what did they used to do? They would just take a little. Some of them, they would travel distances for one hadith. One of them, he traveled from Al-Madinah to Ash-Sham, which is 1 month's journey for one hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That he could benefit from one hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that means in that one hadith is so many fawaid that it would last him a long time. So many benefits. It is related that the Prophet sallallahu wasallamu alayhi, he said, ثلاث من كن فيه وجد بهن حلاوة الإسلام. He said, three qualities that whoever possesses them, that person has tasted the sweetness or found the sweetness of Islam. Halawatul Islam. He said, "Man kana Allahu wa rasuluhu ahabbu ilayhi mimma siwahuma." Whoever that Allah and His Messenger is more beloved to him than anything other than Allah and His Messenger. Such a person, that one who Allah and His Messenger is the most beloved thing to him. That Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, having the correct belief in Allah, knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is one, is existent, doesn't resemble His creation, that He is free of need of His creation, and all of His other illustrious attributes. That one who knows that one who believes in Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala and doesn't doubt, and struggles with his wealth and his person in the path of Allah. That one who loves Sayyiduna Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam more than his parents, more than his children, more than his wealth, more than everything in the world. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is the most beloved to him. That person is among the three who have found the sweetness of Iman, of Islam. Then the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he continued. He said, وَمَنْ أَحَبَّ الْمَرْأَ لَا يُحِبَّهُ إِلَّا لِلَّهِ. That the person is the one who loves a person, but he only loves him for the sake of Allah. This is important. That we as Muslims learn to love one another because Allah ordered us with that. And that love of the believer should be unconditional. Should be unconditional. You know, we have in our life, we always say we want somebody to love us unconditionally. That's real love. So, as a Muslim, if you want the sweetness of Islam, you need to love your fellow Muslim for the sake of Allah. And what is loving your fellow Muslim? Loving your fellow Muslim first is to help that believer obey Allah. That is in terms of teaching them, guiding them, advising them. That's the believer. Because we live in a time where many of the Muslims, they don't know the rules of the religion. They don't know the rules of the religion. They are in the form of practicing the religion, the form of being Muslim. But the reality has some things left to desire. And we should, as Muslims, help one another be good Muslims. Be obedient servants to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. By encouraging each other to learn the religious knowledge. As the Prophet salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, he said, طَلَبُ الْعِلْمِ فَرِيدَةٌ عَلَى كُلِّ مُسْلِمٍ. That seeking the knowledge of the religion is an obligation on every single Muslim. Every Muslim has to learn a portion of the knowledge. And if you love for your brother what you love for yourself, among the good things, the first thing that you want them to know is to have the knowledge of Allah and His Messenger and His religion. As one of the great scholars said, أول واجب على العبد العلم بالله ورسوله ودينه. That the first obligation on the servant is to have the knowledge of Allah, His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the matters of the religion. That's the first obligation. So when we love for the sake of Allah, and we love that person only for Allah, we want them to be guided to the good things. And likewise, we want to push them away from the bad things. Because if you love someone, you don't want them to be in any situation where they would harm themselves. You don't want that for them. And that's why one of the most important cornerstones of Islam is al-amru bil ma'ruf wa nahyan al-munkar. It is enjoining what is right and forbidding what is wrong. And if we love one another, we always do that. And look how Allah described the companions specifically, radiyallahu ta'ala anhum ajma'een, and all of the Muslims in general. كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر. You are the best nation brought forth from the human race. You're the best. We Muslims, we should have pride and honor and dignity in that. You are the best, but you do something. You enjoin what is right, and you forbid what is wrong. And the only way you can enjoin what is right and forbid what is wrong is that you learn the knowledge of the sacred law. You learn the knowledge of the sacred law. And many may ask, today is Monday, and many people fasted Sunday, and some didn't broke the fast on Sunday, and some didn't, and they wait till Monday. Why? And we say, if we learn the matters of the religion, and we stick to the rules of the religion, then such a question is easily answered by saying some people, as they look at the proofs from the religious texts, from the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in which the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, fast when you see it, the crescent moon, and break your fast when you see it. Sumu liru'yatihi waftiru liru'yatihi. Fast when you see it. Break the fast when you see it. So what are we looking for? That crescent moon. If it is not saw with the naked eye, and we can confirm it, then even if others do something, we must do what the sacred law necessitates that we do. That doesn't blame the other because they have a view, but we try to stick to a view that is consistent with the Sunnah and the way of the Salaf and the way of our great Imams who are mujtahid scholars. And in that manner, we blame no one, but we do what Allah ordered us to do. And by following those scholars, we follow the command of Allah, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلِ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people of knowledge if you do not know. And the people of knowledge are the mujtahid scholars of this religion. So this is the issue. It is just trying our best to stick to the sacred law, to stick to the rules of the religion, which is a lesson for us. Because many of us, we don't realize that learning the rules of the religion is so important for our survival in this world. Our hereafter depends on it. We're not perfect people, but we have the ability to take this religion serious. We have the ability to start striving harder to acquire the knowledge. We should develop, and we are developing, alhamdulillah, among our people, a group of individuals who spend their time learning the sacred law so that they would convey the rules of the religion in a trustworthy, authentic manner. Very important. And this is important, that we begin in America, in every locality, to try to produce learned people who understand the Islamic text. That's important. I'll make it even more how important it is. The scholars of Islam, they say, if there is not a faqih, a scholar of the sacred law, in every locality, then all of the people of that locality are sinful. Very important. We cannot rely on the internet to teach us our religion. We cannot rely on Google to teach us our religion. We cannot rely on our own opinion, not based on the sacred law to guide us. Especially, and I say it unapologetically, African Americans, you must produce your own scholarship. You must produce your own scholarship. My teachers used to say to us, whoever rules and judges a people without knowing their condition is a criminal. Do you follow? Whoever rules and judges over a people without understanding their condition is a criminal. And trust me, many people don't understand our condition. And what happens? That we're left holding the bag, if I should say it in a nice way. So we don't get angry. We say, this is why we must learn. For our younger brothers and sisters, it would be old school to the young people today, but in my time, they had a song, KRS-One. He had a song called You Must Learn. We should put that in our kids' head. You must learn. That's an Islamic principle. You must learn. And we cannot suffice with not learning the religion. And if we love each other for the sake of Allah, that should be first. That should be first. And that's what is happening in this country. There is a movement among American scholars. There is an endeavor, American students of knowledge, to produce works and religious judgments that would help us practice our religion. Alhamdulillah, here today we have an initiative, Lamppost here, that is at the forefront of doing that. Showcasing and highlighting American scholarship. That's important. Because without it, we're not going to produce a future generation of knowledgeable Muslims that understand how to work in this environment. It's very important. That's part of loving each other for the sake of Allah. And if you go anywhere in the world, and we have traveled all around the world, every region, every nation has its own ulama. If you go to Egypt, the scholars of Egypt are Egyptians. If you go to Saudi, the scholars of Saudi Arabia, the scholars of there are Saudi. If you go to Damascus, to Sham areas, the scholars are from Sham. Even in China, the scholars are Chinese. That's not separation, that's not division, that's people understanding their own culture and producing scholarship. And when you go to those countries, they are the authoritative scholars in those lands. But when we come to America, we find that this is not the case. And we should not look at anyone wrong, we should fix that issue ourselves. Because we live here, we understand the culture, we understand the circumstances, we understand the people. It's a part of our religion to do it. The last thing that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, وَمَنْ يَكْرَهُ أَنْ يَرْجِعَ إِلَى الْكُفْرِ كَمَا يَكْرَهُ أَنْ يُلْقَى فِي النَّارِ. The third thing is that that person would hate to return to disbelief, just as they would hate to be tossed or cast into the fire. Most of us are converts. Most of us, not all of us, but most of us in this room are converts. We know what it's like to be a disbeliever. We know the harms of the life playing as a disbeliever. And we should have within ourselves a strong distaste for ever returning to that. And one way that you will return to kufr after iman is by al-jahl, by ignorance. One of the great scholars, he said that Allah was never disobeyed with anything more severe than ignorance. And he was questioned, do you know anything more severe than ignorance? He said, Na'am, al-jahlu bi-jahli. He said, yes, ignorance of ignorance. That the person doesn't know and doesn't realize he doesn't know. Dangerous situation to be in. And this is something that ultimately, in the wrong situation, could put us in a situation where we could lose our iman. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned that. And this hadith should be something that just makes us want to learn and want to be safe. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, إِنَّ الْأَبْدَ لَيَتَكَلَمُ بِكَلِمَةٍ لَا يَرَى بِهَا بَأْسًا يَهْوِي بِهَا فِي النَّارِ 70 خَرِيفًا. Hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. He said, verily a servant would utter a word, kalima, one word. La yara biha ba'sa. He doesn't see anything wrong with it. Yahwi biha fin nari 70 kharifa. Because of that one word, he falls the distance of 70 years in the hellfire. And you know what 70 years in the distance now? It's the bottom of hell. And only a disbeliever would fall that far. But it's one word. And what is the case? That the person didn't learn, didn't do the obligation that it was upon them or her. La yara biha ba'sa. Sees nothing wrong with what they're doing or what they're saying. And the consequence is severe. So I remind myself and I remind you on this day to resolve within yourself that I'm going to strive hard to learn the matters of this religion in an authentic, trustworthy manner. For myself, for my family, for my friends, for my neighbors, for my fellow human beings. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered us with that. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu qu anfusakum wa ahlikum nara. O ye who believe, save yourself and yourselves and your family from a fire. Subhanallah. What is the wiqaya? What is the protection we need here to learn the matters of the religion? It is extremely important. And what we are doing here at Masjd Muhammad, that's our first priority. That's number one. And that's why we have programs and we cooperate with those who are trying to produce educated, learned individuals who will spread this religion. Monthly, bi-weekly, scholars, teachers, shuyukh, imams coming to this masjid to educate us. Don't miss this opportunity. We have had the honor to have some of the greatest teachers in our country and some great scholars from abroad take advantage of it. And for us, if we become a knowledgeable community an educated community, we will be the inheritors of this prophetic inheritance. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Ibadullah, inni usikum wa nafsi bitaqwa Allah. كما قال الله تبارك وتعالى يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. Brothers and sisters, I really want to advise myself and you to stick to the trustworthy methodology of the prophetic nation, which is the methodology of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. That our religion consists of three primary parts that are mentioned in the hadith of Jibreel. And it is important that we revive the study of these sacred sciences. Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salam came to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and he asked the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam three main questions. He said, أخبرني عن الإيمان وأخبرني عن الإسلام وأخبرني عن الإحسان. And the Prophet answered those questions. He said, tell me about Iman, tell me about faith, tell me about Islam, which is the actual practice, and tell me about Ihsan, the excellence in worship. And the great scholars, they said, from the prophetic answer that the Prophet ﷺ gave. And you can look in this hadith in Bukhari and Muslim, or more easily for you in the 40 hadith of Imam Nawawi to give the details. But they said these three questions indicate or allude to three Islamic sciences. The Iman, it is an indication of Ilm al-Aqidah, the science of Islamic belief, which unfortunately today is one of the most misunderstood sciences among the common people, that we need to educate. What is the proper Islamic belief? We need to educate each other on that. And we need to revive classes and lessons so that we learn these things. Number two, Al-Islam, it indicates Ilm al-Fiqh, the science of Islamic jurisprudence, the rules of the religion, how to purify ourselves, how to pray, how to fast, how to pay the zakat, how to perform hajj, how to buy, how to sell, how to marry, how to divorce, to do it in a proper way. Our community is suffering because we don't have people who learn the science of fiqh in a proper way. They're reading books on their own. They're reading hadith on their own with no teacher, no system, no chain of narration, just on their own. With sincerity from their side, but leads to a lot of mistakes. Some of the great scholars, they said, the one who does not have a sheikh, a teacher, فَشَيْخُهُ shaitan, then his teacher will be the devil. Be careful in this issue. Al-ilmu bit-ta'allum. Knowledge is by learning through a teacher, with an unbroken chain back to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Al-isnadu min ad-deen, walau la isnad laqala man sha ma sha. The chain of narration, that chain between you and the Prophet, it's a part of the religion. And if there is no chain of narration, then anyone will say about the religion whatever they want. It is upon us to learn our knowledge properly. And the third aspect, al-ihsan, is an indication to at-tasawwuf, spirituality, spiritual purification. That is an important matter. Because you know what is affecting us the most, really? Besides not learning all we need, is that there is moral decay in our society. And what will fix that is Islamic spirituality. When the heart is clean, when the heart is pure, then we can change the society. Then we can change our families. It's extremely important. And lastly, in closing, please teach your children. Educate your children. We do everything for our children to get a good secular education. We try to send them to the best schools, the best universities, so they can get a good job, a good career in this world, but we forget their akhirah. We forget the matters of the religion. And many of our children, they go get old, teenagers and adults, and they don't know their religion. They know everything but the religion. And we need to change that. Because the great pious people, they used to ensure that their children were Islamic scholars and learned people. At minimum, they knew the personal, essential knowledge of the religion before they did anything else. At minimum, make sure that our children learn the religion. That is important, because guess what? One of the biggest crises that we have around the country is not a successorship of leaders. We have imams and shuyukh who don't have anyone to pass the torch to, because we didn't do our job with our children. So we have a crisis in Islamic leadership. We need to take that serious. We need to make it a priority that some of our children learn the religion. It is important. We should have imams, teachers, male and female teachers from among our children. It should be a goal of ours that the imam, the teacher, by the time our children reach 20, they're all qualified to lead the community. We should be giving them the reins. By the time they're 20. In Tarim, Yemen, it was a habit that you would find some of their great scholars were 14, 15, 16 years old, and they were leaders. They were shuyukh, they were imams. At teenagers, our teenagers, we got them playing video games. We got to fix that. You know why? Because they're going to be the ones to carry this religion. And if we don't teach them it, they can't do the job. So please, please, as we celebrate, let's make it in our minds that acquiring the knowledge of the religion, supporting our institutions that are preparing teachers. We must spend our money on our organizations, our institutions, our masjids, so that they can produce teachers for the future. It's important. Take a portion of your wealth every week or bi-weekly or monthly, however you get paid, and allocate a portion of your money to the further of Islamic education. Whether it is the masjid, whether it is an organization, support, spend your money, make that a priority, make it one of your bills. Like you have your cable bill, your cell phone bill, have a bill for helping produce Islamic scholarship in our country. Specifically for that. That's important. And make it an honorable profession. Make teaching the religion, make leading the community something honorable for our children. That some of our children say, I want to be an Islamic teacher. I want to work in an Islamic school. I want to be an imam. I want to be a shaykha. I want to be a sheikh. I want to be a hadith scholar. I want to be a scholar of fiqh. We need that. It's important. Please, please, I beg you to make that a priority for your children. And in order to do that, you need to spend a little time in the masjid. That's important. The masjid needs inhabitants, occupants, and that's us. We need to make it that we bring our families to the masjid. Not always to learn, even if we learn one hadith, but bring our families to the masjid. Come pray. We had that old saying, a family that prays together stays together. We have a lot of broken families. We have a lot of women who cannot find a husband. They're raising children by themselves. Brothers, we have a job to do. We have a job to do. The women are looking for men to lead. I look at some of our immigrant brothers. May Allah reward them. If they make a donation, $50, $100, you know that's a donation of one person, right? But they come in a group, 10, 15 of them. This is a donation from us. The men, the women are sitting somewhere else doing something else. The men are out front. The men are cooking. The men, we need to take that example in our community. The men need to do something. The women are watching us. And they need men. They need men. Not males. Not little boys. Not irresponsible individuals. They need men who know how to raise families. And that's something we should take seriously. Because our enemies, especially in our communities, they put a lot of our men in prison. And they make laws so that our men will stay in prison. And then the women are left with a few. One Sheikh Aisha Pram, she said to me, Imam, you better prepare yourself because you, as one man, may be responsible for 50 women. I didn't say marry 50 women. I said be responsible for 50 women. That's serious. And the other day, as I closed, I was surrounded by a group of women. And I noticed something. I don't know if they were paying attention. I was. Most of those women didn't have husbands. And you know what I said to myself? I said, they need some men to listen to them. And I just happened to be there. That wasn't what they were saying. But sometimes the lisan al-hal, the state, talks louder than the tongue. The state was saying something. Since you a man, or you seem to appear to be one, we're going to give you what we want from the men. Serious. That's a serious issue. And guess what? Women can't raise boys. I know they've been forced to do it, but you see the result we're getting with our boys. Some of our boys are other than boys. And then the other ones are bitter and become criminals. Very few end up to be real productive citizens. That's because there ain't no men around. It's serious issues because we don't get a time to really talk about these things. And our community needs them. We need these issues to be at the forefront. And I tell you, young brothers, all you youth, y'all need to become men by the time you're pubescent. You 12, 13, 14, you need to become a little man. And sisters, don't baby them. Turn them into men. Because we need them. We used to see some of our brothers. I know 2 of our teachers, African Americans. They went overseas when they was like 16, 17 years old. I was thinking to myself, y'all was young, what was y'all doing? In those days, in the early 70s and late 60s, African American youth were men. By the time they were 20, 22, 23, 24, they were already in the struggle. They was on the front lines of the struggle of African American people in this country. Look at our great leaders. They got assassinated at 39, 40 years old. They had been working since they were young men on the front lines. We need to do the same thing. We need to do the same thing. And as Muslims, we have the first obligation to do that. كُنْتُمْ خَيْرُ أُمَّةٍ أُخْرِجَتْ لِلنَّاسِ. You're the best that the nation has to offer. We must do our job. So with that, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our fasting and our worship, cause us to learn lessons from this month, and cause us to endeavor from this point on to do a better job for our community. For our nation of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we need to be ambassadors. We need to be examples. There was a time when we said Muslim, it meant something. It had respect. We said Muslims, respect. We've lost that. We've lost that. To the point that our children and our women are not even safe leaving the masjid because people don't respect us. And you know why they don't respect us? Because we don't respect ourselves anymore. We have to change that narrative. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq. قُلْ وَأَمْ وَأَنْتُمْ بِالْخَيْرِ رَبَّنَا أَتْمِنَا نُورِنَا وَاغْفِرْ لَنَا وارحمنا يا رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. Inshallah, kula amantu bikhair, Eid Mubarak. There is food. Please do not forget the sadaqah. Jazakum Allahu khaira. Sorry for the long, lengthy